Something changed this year. And most people stepping onto an airplane right now have absolutely no idea. They booked their ticket the same way they always have. Showed up at the airport, went through security, found their gate. And then everything fell apart. Because the rules are different now. The way you pick your seat, the fees you might face, even the airline you thought you knew. It all shifted. And if you walk into an airport in 2026 without understanding what happened, you could end up paying more, sitting in a worse spot, or facing problems you never saw coming. So let me walk you through everything. Not the rumors, not the clickbait, just the actual changes that are affecting real passengers right now in 2026. And trust me, some of these will surprise you. Let us start with the biggest news first. Southwest Airlines, the one carrier that held on to open seating for more than 50 years, finally let it go. On January 27, 2026, everything changed. No more walking onto the plane and picking whatever seat looked good. No more strategy about when to check in so you could get an A boarding pass. That entire system is gone. Now Southwest works like every other airline. You book a ticket, you get assigned a seat, or you pay extra to choose a better one. Here is how it breaks down. Southwest now offers 3 seat categories. Standard seats are located toward the back of the cabin. Preferred seats are closer to the front. And extra legroom seats are near the exit rows with up to 5 additional inches of space depending on the aircraft. If you buy the cheapest fare, called Basic, your seat gets randomly assigned at check-in. You have no control over where you end up. Could be the back row next to the lavatory. Could be a middle seat between 2 strangers. You simply do not know until the last minute. Now here is what matters for anyone over 60. If you need to get up frequently during a flight, that random seat assignment could put you in a window position trapped behind 2 other passengers. Not ideal. If you have mobility concerns and need to be closer to the front for easier boarding and deplaning, the basic fare will not help you. You would need to purchase a higher tier or pay separately for seat selection. The boarding process changed too. Southwest used to have 3 groups, A, B, and C. Simple. Now there are 8 boarding groups. Your group depends on your fare, your loyalty status, and where your seat is located. Premium passengers board first. Basic economy boards last. And if you thought showing up early would give you an advantage, that no longer applies the same way. But here is the thing. Southwest is not the only change happening in 2026. Let us talk about what hits every single traveler, regardless of which airline they choose. Real ID enforcement got serious this year. The government has been warning people about this since 2005. 20 years of warnings. And still, about 6% of travelers showed up to airports in late 2025 without a compliant identification. That is roughly 140 million passengers per year flying with outdated licenses. Starting February 1st, 2026, the TSA began charging a $45 fee for anyone who arrives at security without a real ID-compliant license or an acceptable alternative like a passport. Let me be clear about what this fee actually means. You pay $45, you wait an extra 10 to 30 minutes for identity verification, and there is still no guarantee you will get through. If the system cannot verify your identity, you do not fly. No refund, no exception. You simply miss your flight. For older travelers who might have licenses issued years ago and never updated, this is critical. Check your license right now. Look for a star in the upper corner. If there is no star, you need to visit your DMV before your next trip. The good news: digital IDs are now accepted at more than 250 TSA checkpoints. If you live in Arizona, California, Colorado, Florida, Georgia, or about 15 other states, you can add your license to Apple Wallet, Google Wallet, or Samsung Wallet. That digital version counts as valid identification. But again, your state must participate, and you need to set this up before you travel. Now let us get into seat selection itself, because beyond Southwest, every airline has been adjusting how they handle this, and the pattern is clear. Free seat selection is disappearing. Basic economy fares on American, Delta, and United increasingly assign seats at check-in rather than at booking. If you want to choose where you sit, you pay. Window seat, extra charge. Aisle seat, extra charge. Anything that is not a middle seat near the back, extra charge. For passengers who need specific seats for health reasons, this creates real problems. Let me give you an example. The Centers for Disease Control recommends that travelers on flights longer than 4 hours select aisle seats. Why? Because sitting in a window seat increases your risk of developing deep vein thrombosis. That is a blood clot that forms in your leg when you stay still for too long. Window seat passengers move around less. They feel trapped. They do not want to climb over their neighbors, so they stay seated. And that is dangerous. The American College of Chest Physicians actually lists window seats as a risk factor for DVT. Not a theory, not a suggestion. A documented medical risk factor. For anyone over 40, anyone who has had surgery recently, anyone carrying extra weight, or anyone with a family history of blood clots, an aisle seat is not a luxury. It is a health decision. But what happens when the airline assigns you a window seat automatically because you bought the cheapest fare? You either accept the risk, pay to change your seat, or hope someone will switch with you at the gate. None of those options are great. Here is what I recommend. When booking, always check if the fare includes seat selection. If you are on a budget airline or basic economy ticket, factor in the cost of seat selection as part of your total price. That $30 seat fee might actually save you from a serious health issue. And for longer flights, aisle seats should be the default choice for anyone concerned about circulation. Speaking of health, let me address something else that comes up constantly in the comments. Exit row seats. Everyone loves the extra legroom. But most people do not understand the rules around these seats. And some travelers assume these are the best option without realizing the downsides. Federal regulations require exit row passengers to be at least 15 years old. They must be able to speak English on U.S. airlines. They must have the physical ability to lift objects weighing around 50 to 60 pounds, which is the weight of an emergency exit door. They cannot use a seatbelt extension, and they must be willing to assist in an emergency. Flight attendants verify these criteria before takeoff. If you cannot meet them, you will be moved to a different seat. And whatever you paid for that exit row spot might not be refunded, depending on the airline. For older passengers, here is the reality. If you have mobility limitations, joint problems, or difficulty lifting heavy objects, the exit row might not be right for you, even if you want the legroom. Being asked to move at the gate is embarrassing. It can delay the flight, and you might end up in a worse seat than if you had just chosen a regular aisle seat from the beginning. There is also a temperature issue. Exit doors are not perfectly sealed at cruising altitude. Passengers seated next to these doors often report feeling cold during the flight. At 35,000 feet, the outside temperature can drop to negative 70 degrees. That thin insulation near the door does not fully protect you. If you tend to get cold easily, consider this before booking. One more thing about exit rows. The row directly in front of an exit row usually cannot recline. Airlines do this to keep the exit path clear. So, if you are in row 14 and the exit row is row 15, your seat stays upright the entire flight. On a 7-hour international trip, that makes a difference. Now, let me pause here and share something that has helped a lot of travelers avoid these kinds of surprises. I put together something called the Airport Survival Guide. It covers situations exactly like what we have been discussing. What to know before you book, how to navigate the airport without stress, what to bring, what not to bring, how to handle delays, cancellations, and unexpected problems. All the things you wish someone had told you before your last trip. If that sounds useful, I pinned a link in the description below. Take a look when you have a chance. Let us continue. Because there are more seat rules that caught people off guard this year. Carry-on enforcement got stricter. This does not seem related to seating at first, but it absolutely is. Airlines have started measuring bags more carefully at the gate. If your personal item does not fit under the seat in front of you, crew members now have authority to tag it and send it to the cargo hold. The fee for that ranges from $35 to $65 depending on the carrier. More importantly, it means you lose access to your stuff for the entire flight. Why does this affect seating? Because if you are seated in a bulkhead row or certain exit rows, there is no seat in front of you. Your personal item must go in the overhead bin, and on full flights, overhead space fills up fast. Passengers in later boarding groups often find no bin space at all. That leaves you with two options. Check your bag at the gate or place it several rows behind your seat, which means waiting for everyone to deplane before you can retrieve it. The solution here is to know your aircraft layout before you book. Use a site like SeatGuru or Seat Maps to see exactly where your seat is located. Check if it has under-seat storage. Check if it reclines. Check if it is near a lavatory, a galley, or a bulkhead. 5 minutes of research can prevent an entire flight of discomfort. For passengers traveling with companions, especially couples or families, 2026 brought another challenge. Seat selection fees combined with assigned seating policies make it harder to sit together without paying extra. On Southwest, the new basic fare assigns seats randomly. 2 people on the same reservation might end up rows apart. On other airlines, basic economy typically blocks adjacent seat selection. Now, there are rules meant to help families. The Department of Transportation requires airlines to make efforts to seat children under 14 next to an adult family member at no extra charge. But this only applies to children. If 2 adults want to sit together, that is considered a preference, not a right, and airlines charge for preferences. What does this mean practically? If you are traveling with a spouse or partner, and you both have mobility or health concerns, booking basic economy could separate you. One of you might end up in an aisle, the other in a window row rows away. If one of you needs assistance during the flight, that separation becomes a real problem. Paying for seat selection in this case is not optional. It is necessary. Let me touch on one more rule change that specifically affects larger passengers. Southwest updated its customer of size policy alongside the seating overhaul. Previously, passengers who needed extra space could request a second seat at the gate for free if available. Starting January 27, 2026, those passengers must now purchase a second seat at booking. Refunds are possible, but only if the flight departs with an empty seat, both seats were in the same fare class, and the request is submitted within 90 days. This policy shift has generated significant backlash, but it reflects a broader industry trend. Delta, American, and United all have similar requirements on the books. Now, for the practical advice. What should every passenger know about seat selection in 2026? Here are the key points. First, check your identification before you travel. Make sure your license is Real ID compliant. If it is not, get it updated or bring your passport. Second, understand your fare type. Basic economy fares save money but limit your control. Know what you are giving up. Third, prioritize aisle seats for flights over 4 hours. Your health matters more than saving $30. Fourth, research your aircraft. Use seat map tools to find the best options. Avoid seats that do not recline. Avoid seats next to lavatories. Avoid seats in front of exit rows. Fifth, book seats early. The best options disappear quickly. If seat selection is included with your fare, use it immediately. Sixth, if you are traveling with someone who needs to sit beside you, do not leave it to chance. Pay for adjacent seats or call the airline directly to explain your situation. Many carriers accommodate medical needs if you ask. Seventh, arrive early. With Real ID enforcement and stricter carry-on checks, airport lines take longer than they used to. Give yourself extra time. And finally, stay informed. Rules change. Airlines adjust policies. What worked last year might not work this year. The more you know before your trip, the fewer surprises you face at the airport. 2026 has brought more changes to air travel than any single year in recent memory. Some of these make flying more expensive. Some make it more complicated. But knowledge is the best defense. If you understand the rules before you book, you stay ahead of the problems. You get the seat you need. You avoid the fees that catch others off guard. And you arrive at your destination without the stress that comes from being unprepared. That is what I have for you today. I hope this helped clarify what is actually happening with airplane seats this year. If you found this useful, share it with someone who has a trip coming up. They will thank you for it. And if you have questions or your own experiences to share, drop them below. I read through everything and appreciate hearing from you. Until the next one, safe travels out there.